students at P Jindal University. Dr. Pankaj Jha was Director Research with Indian Council of World Affairs for more than 2.5 years, from 2014 to 2017. He had worked as Deputy Director with the National Security Council, Secretariat of India from 2012 to 2013. He has been the visiting fellow with Center for International Security Studies, Sydney University, and Institute for South Asian Studies, Singapore in 2006. Professor Pankaj Jha also teaches online courses with MA in International Relations, Security and Strategy with COURSERA. He is also visiting faculty with the National Academy of Defense Production and other defense institutions of India. He has been member of high-level delegations to Israel, Belgium, Germany, Turkey, Australia, and other countries. He has been the visiting fellow with Center for International Security Studies, Sydney University, and Institute for South Asian Studies, Singapore, 2006. He had worked as fellow with Indian Council of World Affairs for 3 years and associate fellow with Institute for Defense Studies and Analyses for 6 years. He has more than 80 articles, academic papers, including nearly 20 Scopus articles in both referred and non-referred journals. He is regularly quoted in international newspapers and magazines such as Nikkei Asian Review, South China Morning Post, Bangkok Post, Gulf News, and International Business Times, etc. He has authored 3 books on India and China in Southeast Asia, Competition or Cooperation, 2013, and India and the Oceania, Exploring Vistas of Cooperation, 2016. His book on India, Vietnam, and the Indo-Pacific, Routledge, London, 2021, was well recognized. He has co-authored 2 books on crafting national security strategy for India, 2021, and envisioning India's role in the Indo-Pacific, 2021. What Professor Jha has not mentioned in his bios case that he is a prolific and a brilliant speaker, and I have the good fortune of hearing him in this Dhara Samudra Manthan in Bali Jatra. So once again, I welcome you, sir. And today's topic is Futuristic Maritime Challenges for India. You will have a time for 40 minutes, then we can have a question and answer for 10 to 15 minutes. With these words, I again welcome you to this prestigious lecture series. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Professor Nachiketa. I hope I'm audible to everyone.
Yes, you are audible. You are audible.
Loud and clear. Okay, thank you, Professor Nachiketa, for such generous remarks. I will call myself a student, a learner, a person who studies things. I hope my slides are visible to all of you.
Yes, it is visible.
Okay, so the first thing which really comes to the mind, that why didn't I use the future challenges and why did I use the word futuristic challenges? Because future challenges you can see, but futuristic is what you are really going to work on it, what you are going to envision it. And therefore, this whole debate with regard to whether our maritime security with the template that we are currently going through is sufficient enough to address those challenges which are over the horizon, which are just around the corner, or we need to really pull up our socks and look into where exactly we need to work to bring about a lot of synergies in our scientific community, in our scientific exploration underwater, and all those things. And I believe, frankly, that whenever you see the image of an aircraft carrier, it's a moving ship with a lot of tonnage, a lot of aircrafts and helicopters. But the question really emerges: is the aircraft carrier is a viable option with regard to power projection and countermeasures against rogue ships and rogue nations which want to dominate your sea space? More importantly, the maritime domain has undergone a lot of changes in the last few years. And this is primarily because of the fact that there is a new tech which has come into being. When you look into a number of bilateral agreements that India has signed with a number of countries, you will always look into this global international maritime order, addressing issues related to unregulated, unreported fishing, with regard to piracy, armed robbery at sea. And these are those issues which any Navy guy will tell you obviously on this aspect. But given the fact that I can listen to many of the Navy experts as well as civilian experts, I thought why not to curate a presentation, a slide, which can really highlight what are the emerging challenges over the horizon. So what I did, I wanted to dissect the maritime security the definitions per se, and basic tenets of this maritime security. It includes sea power, maritime safety, ocean economy, human resilience to disasters. And I'm also part of the Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative, which is a project which has been undertaken by Australian and Indian government to look into where exactly are those issues related to pollution, safe maritime shipping, trade, logistics support, and all of these are critical for our sustenance, particularly in the domain of maritime trade, shipping, and commerce. Now, it has also become very important that the maritime security, which has been primarily been seen from protecting platforms, protecting coastal communities, human life, whether we also need to devise a strategy for next 20 odd years, where we can look into the over the horizon technologies, which will be a major challenge. Now you can already see when you are looking into your iPhone, iPhone is already detecting your face, your motions, even your your web surfing ideas, and looking into where exactly are you really interested into. And this kind of of cyber iCloud, which is being generated because of your facial movements, because of your selfies that you usually take, what this kind of a data can really do in future. Is this the phase when data is being mined and which might be in future might be used for issues like artificial intelligence, or even detecting the behavioral impact of a person, that you can tell whether this person is really going to hit me if I have a fight or whether not. These kind of behavioral inputs will also be very important in future, and therefore we need to really look into how this maritime security, particularly now, is being seen from that point of view. Now more and more navies are looking into blue water capabilities, power projection capabilities, which includes amphibious land attack capabilities, amphibious landing ships, amphibious land attack crafts, and all those things, which is being seen from that point of view, that how you are going to make yourself more maritime capable nations, which can also protect the coastal zones as well as exclusive economic zones, and also project power in the high seas. Navy, particularly those long-established forces in India, is also aspiring for a nearly more than 200 ship navy, and we are looking into replacing those ships with smart frigates, with ships which can have certain kind of automation, which can think on those terms, more automation of few of the systems. Like earlier, we used to load the ordnance into the cannon of the ships, but now it is more self-loading. And these kind of capabilities also brought about a new kind of proliferation of submarine capabilities. Now you have submarines whose acoustic signature diesel electric and nuclear submarines. Diesel electric submarines make lesser amount of noise, but nuclear submarines make larger noise, and their acoustic signatures are more. Now the technology is being developed so that the acoustic signatures, which are instrumental in their detection on sonars, is reduced to such an extent that it is also important to know how it is going to shape up the future warfare, particularly in the maritime domain. There is also the proliferation of conventional offensive capabilities with regard to the speed of the torpedoes, those underwater missiles which can be used against ships to destroy them, or any kind of underwater platforms. There is also a lot of research which is being done in innovative capabilities. If you look into Russia-Ukraine war, there was a report which came into being which said that the Russian ship fleet has been attacked by underwater drones, which have been Turkish origin, but the Russia has completely, averted that attack and has been working to undertake these kind of countermeasures. Now these underwater drones are the new thing of the past, the new thing which is going to come up in the horizon, because even if your ship is very much stationed in the dock, there might be certain underwater drone which can act as a kamikaze to destroy that kind of a platform, and therefore more and more underwater things which are being talked about in near future. So what does the future holds? If I talk about it, there is a lot of talk about critical technologies, what kind of critical technologies. If you go into the joint statement of the Quad group of members, which includes India, Japan, US, and Australia, one of the important things which come to the horizon is critical technologies. What exactly is the critical technologies? And then there is also talk about disruptive tech. What is disruptive tech? If you look into it, many of you might have seen pagers. Pagers was a device where you give a paging message to the person, and he would like to give you a call on the phone number from which you have called, and then you can have a discussion. There were also used to be, Professor Nachiketa will correct me, there used to be digital diaries where you can enter the name of the person and the phone number and other details, and whenever you want to retrieve it, you open the digital diary, type the search name, and it automatically comes on board. What has happened? The pages, the digital diaries, all have died because there is a new device which is known as smartphone, which incorporated all the qualities of these instrumentations and presented a new kind of a tech overboard. So you can say the mobile phones are a disruptive tech. When there was a tensions in 1996 on the Taiwan Strait, the Chinese general told that, look, the US general, that next time your aircraft carriers will come, we will destroy them with the carrier killer missiles. And over a period of next 20 odd years, China has developed these carrier killer missiles through which they can destroy a completely, for $3 to $4 billion aircraft carrier comprising of all the instrumentations on board. And therefore, it was seen whether that aircraft carrier killer missile is more useful or the aircraft carrier which is more useful for dominating the space. Now, this debate also goes on that what exactly is the level of disruptiveness that you will accept in the near future. You already know issues like 3D printing, where you can order the instrumentation and the 3D printing has already been created. We have been doing, and many of the other defense forces are 3D printing grenades, because grenade production and manufacturing is a dangerous affair, and therefore more and more automation is being brought about, and 3D printing is one of the important aspects of it, where the time required to print a complete grenade is very high. But then with more advancement in technologies, maybe this manufacturing process will be reduced over a period of time. Now we are also looking into underwater systems. We see underwater gliders. Chinese, after dominating the South China Sea, are increasingly interested in what is happening in Indian Ocean region. And we have detected in the last few years 5 Chinese gliders which have hovered around to collect information and data. If you are not aware of the fact that the submarine operations required much amount of data and information with regard to salinity of the water, the depth, how much depth the submarine need to really submerge and how long it can get submerged, which is known as bathymetric data. And therefore, this kind of data is useful for submarine operations. And Chinese undersea gliders are not only collecting information about this topographical landscape of the undersea, but also looking into how this data can be conveyed for better submarine operation without getting detected by the anti-submarine equipment and other kind of sonar systems. There is also a lot of talk with regard to marine ecology and ocean economy, because it is being seen when the batteries and other things which are coming, where nickel, cobalt are increasingly seen as an important elements in this revolution, electronic, battery and other things. It is seen that the marine ecology will be disturbed because there will be commercial exploitation of these resources, polymetallic nodules in the sea. There is also new kind of tech which is being taken up, which is platforms and autonomous systems, where there are unmanned ships which traverse from one way to another without getting a lot of interventions from the human, apart from that person who's at the controls of that ship at some place. Now there is also a lot of work which has been done with regard to quantum technologies. Quantum technologies is using the subatomic configurations for better understanding of the systems, and it is also challenging the encryption, because the normal encryption, the quantum technologies can decrypt and break any hardcore encryption in a matter of seconds. So how are you going to possibly counter these kind of technologies which are increasingly over the horizon? Stealth technology, where you find a lot of materials have been used to completely camouflage the radar signatures of a ship. If you look at a ship, there are a lot of jutting, wireless. There is a lot of equipment on board, which becomes radar cross section signatures, which is detected by the radars, which say, okay, this is a ship which is traversing through a critical state, and therefore it is more important. Now, when you look into the stealth technologies, Singapore is working on it. We are also working on it. Is to put most of this equipment, which is hovering outside the ship, into the mainframe, so that there is less of the equipment which is visible from the eye, and also coating it with materials which completely reflect, either absorb the radar's signals, or try to deflect it in a way which is seen as completely innocent thing which is traversing through the sea. Underwater drones and gliders is one thing which is a lot of information and a lot of work has been done. If you look into Bakhtavar drones which have been used by the Turkey in the case of Armenia-Azerbaijan war, where Azerbaijan won the war because of the extensive use of Turkish drone, the same Turkey is now experimenting with underwater drones which can always take on a bigger ship or on a kamikaze sort of an attack. And therefore, this is also important to understand how this is going to be shaping up the future of the maritime security, particularly in the Indian Ocean, and where there is a lot of talk with regard to how Indian Navy is going to look into that horizon of technologies which are going to challenge its dominance in the Indian Ocean region. What exactly are the countermeasures that we are going to look into it, and how we are going to address these challenges? Now, this issue of critical technologies, and there are a number of them, more than 28. You can see it in the US government website, which talks about the critical technologies, which US finds it very important to work on. And Quad stress on critical technologies primarily is to address these. This includes advanced computing, advanced engineering materials, advanced gas turbine engine technology, which means the ships can move at a faster pace, and then therefore there is a challenge with regard to detecting and all those things. Advanced and network sensing and signature management, advanced nuclear energy technologies, which means the nuclear submarines can be more effective in the long term. Artificial intelligence, autonomous systems and robotics, biotechnologies, communication and networking technologies, directed energy weapons, where you can use all kinds of lasers and microwaves to destroy an incoming missile which is attacked in that context. Network sensors and sensing, quantum information technologies, renewable energy generation, where you have onboard renewable energy generation. If you look into one of the instances which I want to really talk about it, is the fact that the water filtration in the ships earlier was very limited, and people have to use for one day they just barely get one bucket of water. Now the water filtration technologies on board naval ships has more advanced, and people can really take bath every day. And there is also a extensive use of semiconductors and microelectronics, which is going to completely reshape the naval ecosystem as well as horizon. Now, talking about disruptive tech, and which is the most interesting aspect which is coming on board, is the change which is gradually happening over a period of time. Earlier, we used to see, when we graduated from radio to transistor to tape recorders, after to CD systems, MP3 systems, and now we have everything in the iCloud. Now, if you look into the horizons of the progression of the technology is changing very fast. Maybe in future we will have something on the hand, and we tap it on, and we can call a person just by biosensors and that kind of equipment which can be clipped into it. Now, also there is a work which is being done in terms of quantum photonic sensing and security, which help translate scientific leadership into technology development and prototypes in select high impact applications, cyber security, natural resources sensing, and security sensing. Nanobots and mini drones which is also being seen over the horizons. And again, if these are applicable in the land system, these are equally applicable in the sea systems and naval systems and maritime systems. Emerging technologies, which includes advanced manufacturing, automation, and Internet of Things, among others. There is also work with regard to data mining and mapping of behavioral aspects of individuals. Because if you can map an individual, you will know, suddenly amount of data you are feeding into the system is quite interesting. Every time you say you put up a Instagram thing, and you said, I am happy, I want to have chole bhature, or I want to have patna bhat, or that kind of thing. Now what happens? this tech will automatically take it that, look, this guy, whenever he gets happy, he had some kind of a food. And if he's having that kind of food, which means he's happy. Now, this kind of an inversely proportional sort of an ecosystem which is being built, so they can know about your behavioral aspects, and they will know how much you will be really engaged into these things. Now, when you look into the table of disruptive technologies, which is, I have taken it from one of the places, which is Tech Foresight. In this thing, you can see the green horizons, green tech are those which are already in existence. The yellow tech are those which are over the horizon in 10, 20 years. And these red and gray are those ghost technologies which might be available in the next 30 to 40 years. And it includes 100 odd technologies which are in progression, which are in innovation phase, which is in the form of an idea, and which needs implementation over a period of time. And this is where the most of the disruptive technologies comes into being. Now, importantly, when you are flying an aircraft, and then you have onboard systems, everything is good. You can do whatever you want to in terms of dropping bombs, in terms of navigation, and all those things. Suddenly, let's say that all your electronic onboard systems go kaput. There is no signals, nothing which is available on board your system, which is electronic warfare and interference, which enemy country has infiltrated into your system. And now you are completely blind because you don't know where are your GPS coordinates, where exactly is your aircraft, what is the altitude, what is the flight path, what exactly is the speed that you are maneuvering into. Now, these kind of technologies which are taking shape are also instrumental in completely defining the maritime sector, maritime space. Because if you are in a ship, you have a complete onboard system and you are looking into where exactly is the nearest ship, where exactly are you located. But if, let's assume, most of your systems on board go completely eccentric and you don't have any control over it, then you have a case where even if you have the biggest ship of which you are commanding, but you have a problem of navigating it, knowing what exactly are the different contours of it and how to really project yourself. The more important thing which I talked about it in terms of Turkey and how it is going much more critical is the fact that the underwater systems, there is a lot of innovation which is being talked about it. If you look into this research related to submarine cables, many of you might be aware of the fact that about 6-7 years back, whole of India went through a phase of very slow internet because one of the submarine cables was snapped closer to the Egypt coast, and the whole of India, because the submarine cables which used to submerge near Egypt, which carry most of the internet connectivity, was broken by one of the anchors of a ship, and we could not really have internet for nearly 3 to 4 days, even though there was internet, but it was very slow. Now, these submarine cables has also become one of the manifestation of the knowledge sharing, information, and other things. If you look into the Second World War, most of the telegraphic cables which passed through the sea, many of the instrumentations were used to intercept those telegraphic cables and understand where exactly are the allied powers and the Axis powers are really working, and what exactly is the messages and communications which have been transpiring. The issue of protecting these submarine cables, underwater gas pipelines, and commercial sector utility of the underwater, particularly on the sea, you will find a lot of gas pipelines which have been put across, and these are viable for sabotage in the future. So therefore, there is a need for understanding these future challenges which are going to come up. The new kind of submarines which we are increasingly seeing, because the speed, the engine capacities, the length of submerged, if you know into diesel electric submarine, the submarines have to come up every 7 or 8 days to recharge the batteries in the open. Now, if the technology gets much more sophisticated, the recharge option, air independent propulsion and recharge option is completely taken care of, then the submarines can dive at a greater length. If you look into the dive capacity of a nuclear submarine, it can stay submerged for nearly 45 days without even having to come up at surface until unless the crew says that we have too much of water everywhere, but we want to see the sun. So that kind of thing. There is also a lot of work which has been done with regard to suppressed acoustic signatures. The submarines do have an acoustic signatures, and you can know that there is a submarine which is passing through, and the sonars usually detect these acoustic signatures. Now, there is increasingly work which has been done through these underwater drones, where they can mimic the sounds of the mammals, like whales. So the sonars, which is really there to detect your submarine, they will try to understand that, okay, this is not a submarine, this is the sound of a mammal, a whale, a sperm whale, a blue water whale, that kind of thing, which confuses the sonar that whether it's actually a submarine or something else. Also, there is a work which is being done with regard to intelligence complex adaptive systems. The systems adapt themselves to address the challenges, and then it is very difficult in this underwater domain. Then there are sensors which have been really placed at different nodes to understand that, look, this kind of a platform, submerged platform, is being passing through. The important aspect which is being done is smart mines. Smart mines, usually when you have an underwater mine, any ship or a submarine hits it, it will blast, and making that submarine or the ship incapacitated to even operate in the waters. Now the smart mines, they have developed that kind of thing where it can completely avoid the friendly ships and submarines, while it will detect those unfriendly ships and submarines and would explode at that point of time, which again is one thing which is being seen from that point of view. Now again, this question always comes about that even if you have aircraft carrier, do you have that kind of a support system, that kind of a countermeasures which can protect your aircraft carrier so that you can do power projection in a better way? Or you need to change the futuristic option or detect much more, invest much more on those systems which are which are disruptive, which can damage the instrumentation, and you are still, you have developed that kind of deterrence capabilities. Interestingly, in the maritime domain, it's not only Navy, but it is also the marine resources, marine ecology, which every country is now scavenging for. There is a new concept of blue economy, where means harnessing of marine resources, which means, there is a lot of talk with regard to the seaweed, that kind of a material which is highly nutritious, can be an effective way to control your health and also reduce your weight, all kinds of things which have been talked about in the marine domain. Now it is also being seen that the nickel, cobalt, and other things which can be found in the polymetallic and polysaccharidized noodles on the sea surface can be one of those harbingers of e-revolution, which everybody is looking into it. Chile is one of those countries which have the highest amount of lithium reserves, but it is saying it is going to use it as per its own utility and its resources as per it wishes to. And therefore, there is a need not only for rare earths, which rare earths are those which are used primarily in your telephone, space satellites, and all those things, as well as those kind of materials which can bring about this e-revolution, which is, you know the word and know the name of the car, which is Tesla. And scavenging and undersea soil sampling, which is an important aspect of it. Commercial exploitation is one way which many of the companies will be doing it, and then your navies, your commercial sector will have to look into it so that your resources are not utilized, harnessed, and exploited by companies taking another plea and trying to get certain regions allocated where you are the legitimate holder of that particular maritime zones or an extended exclusive economic zones. There will be tensions on resources and there will be frictions because the countries will try to really, it's something like Arctic and Antarctic. Whosoever wants to put the flag in has that kind of a sovereign jurisdiction, even though there is an Antarctica treaty and Arctic treaty still in the making. So therefore, there will be a possibility of a lot of frictions and all those things. The issue of global commons, that the global commons need to be preserved for even landlocked countries like Afghanistan, Nepal, who doesn't have the resources, but the global commons should also be protected for those countries who don't have resources to exploit it now. Now, this global commons, particularly high seas, the minerals, materials which are available over there, and who is going to protect it? What will be the legal obligations of the countries on the littoral zones, and what will be the claims of those countries which are landlocked and do not have access to sea? There is another option which is really coming up, is autonomous platform and systems. Now, you will be surprised to know there are more than 1,000 maritime autonomous surface ships. There are nobody on board, and which has been operated by more than 53 organizations. These vessels work alongside manned vessels with minimal autonomous specific regulation, which means these can work itself. There is a lot of talk with regard to a ship without sailors, a ship without captain, which can be completely navigated with global positioning system, and they can navigate into the port, and all those things can be done. But there is also important aspect of it. About 2 decades back, Singapore talked about this maritime terrorism, that if a ship can be used as as an instrument where it can really hit the port and cause widespread damage. Can we also look into these autonomous systems which can be to hijacked by few hackers and can ram these autonomous systems into the port, damaging the port infrastructure and also leading to a lot number of casualties. There is a lot of discussions which is happening with regard to cyber security, how to really make full control of these autonomous systems and platforms so that it can avoid that collusion and obstacle and cannot be used by non-state actors such as terrorist groups. Remote control station regulation, determination of remote operators as mariners, and how are you going to really decide whether the person who is remotely controlling that autonomous ship or cargo or a barge is of sane mind and he doesn't have nefarious designs, or let's say hitting Indian port with that kind of an autonomous system. The other aspect which is also coming and gaining a lot of traction and where it is a futuristic challenge for India's maritime security is related to quantum technology, computing and sensors. And NATO itself, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, has identified quantum as one of its key emerging and disruptive technologies. Quantum sensors are based on ultra-cold atoms or photons, which are carefully manipulated using superposition or entanglement in specific quantum states. Now, quantum positioning, navigation, and timing, which is one of the most revolutionary thought which has come across, which includes that the submarines can be detected and its position can be decoded because of these quantum positioning, navigation, and timing. Earlier, whenever submarines used to submerge, even the global positioning system could not work because it has its own limitations. Now, with this kind of thing, anybody can know where exactly is my submarine really traversing through or located through. Earlier, whenever our submarines used to get deployed in Indian Ocean or parts of the Pacific, we have to look into those ports which have registered the passing of the submarines and said, yes, the submarine is passing through a particular area. And also, there is a work which is being done with regard to quantum key distribution, which uses quantum particles for the encryption of cryptographic keys. Now, even encryption, we talk about military encryption. We talk about whenever you are talking in a military encryption mode to your command and control, let's say in India, and you are located somewhere near Diego Garcia or Mauritius. Now, if that kind of encryption can be decoded and the enemy knows everything about what you are talking about, then it is a problematic thing. Therefore, there is a lot of work which is being done with regard to quantum cryptography and also these things which have been done. Even though these are on a very elementary stages, let me add a caveat to it, but then these are the challenges which we are going to see in the next 10 to 20 years horizon. Stealth technology is another aspect where you see a lot of, as you can see in the picture itself, there are not of no jutting, wires, boards, or any of those things, which completely makes it a completely clean sort of of sidewinders as well as sideways of a ship and the front, and therefore the radars will detect it as some kind of a mountain or a hill or kind of an obstacle, which is not a ship, because these stealth ships are designed to be harder to detect by radar, sonar, visual, and infrared methods, because the radar cross sections have been completely reduced, because there is nothing which will reflect the radar signature and cross sections over this period of time. Undersea drones and gliders, which is another area which has been a lot of things which have been done. Drones also have this capacity to attack. Gliders are primarily to collect information. So undersea gliders are seen as autonomous systems and extensively used for ocean surface survey, information gathering in the seabed. But as you know, every civilian data gathering does have a limited amount of military applications as well. And these development of quantum sensors, underwater communication systems, acoustic sensors, hydroacoustic technology systems, eco sounders, all of these have made the challenge to address these issues all the more complicated, because the problem is that most of these technologies will be used in onboard systems, and where you will have to prepare yourself to address these things, because a person who is a human cannot fight a robot, because robot will have that kind of an advantage to know where exactly are you going to hit, because it is completely preparing itself for deflecting your attack. Now, where exactly are the countermeasures? If you look into it, Quad, work on cyber security, work on critical technologies. Basically, we are trying to address these with those technologically efficient countries, technology capable countries. People say Quad has been a new initiative with regard to democracies and the countries get together. But let me tell you, the major incentive for India to join Quad was technology. If you look into it, US is a technology giant. Japan is a technology superpower. Australia has its own benefits, not in terms of technology, but is the one of the countries which is at the far end of Indian Ocean and has benefited a lot from those licensed production which many of these US companies have been given to Australia, Raytheon, Boeing, and others. So what exactly are the countermeasures? First, India's R&D spending is among the least among the Asian countries. If you look into the OECD data, India's per capita spending on GDP is barely 0.08%. Japan is nearly 4%, Israel is 4%, Korea is 3.8% or that. Now, when you are trying to be a superpower, you need to invest more on R&D technologies. And sorry to say that our institution tried to get the technology from outside, rework on it, remodel on it, and just sell it out. The problem is that they have not created that innovation base. If we are a new kind of unicorns which are coming across, it is because of the fact that the new guys, new kids are taking the initiative in innovation, building up the ecosystem, building the synergies between the scientific community, industry, and work it out. So therefore, there is a need for joint ventures in this regard when you are trying to look into these kind of technologies which are over the horizons. Address issues beforehand. If you are likely to become a major power or the third largest economy by the year 2047, we do already have a maritime action plan 2047. You also need a new kind of an engagement, new kind of timeline, new kind of capacity building where you can get skilled labor to addressing these challenges and innovating and building up a scientific acumen and capital. Second World War was seen primarily from the German U-boats. U-boats were primarily submarines, but the new wars which will be fought in the Indian Ocean as well as beyond will be U-boats, but which will mean undetected boats and underwater boats, which means both stealth technologies and drones, which will be really completely dominating the maritime space. Now there is a need to work on new kinds of composite materials. Composite materials, and those materials are, let's say I fuse platinum and copper together. If the copper, which is cheap, completely imbibes the properties of the platinum, I will have a copper which is as hard as platinum, and I will have the best of the both worlds, which is cost effective and will help me in developing new kind of systems, new kind of platforms, new kind of a metallurgy, which will be very effective in future. And also we need to work on software to detect these new kind of tech and look for parallel research, which means engage players. If there is a technology which is being done with regard to development of missiles, you will have to simultaneously work on missile defense, because if you have to counter those missiles, you need to have a missile defense technology in hand. Long-term funding and skill development. If you are not investing now for a 30-year horizon, 40-year horizon, you will be missing the bus, and then the whole maritime security edifice, the whole maritime security objective will be defeated, because you will be fighting against a technologically superior enemy, a technologically superior adversaries. And this is where the main crux of the matter really comes to the fore, that how we can really do it. Whether our maritime security, which has been mostly harnessing in capability building, training, future exercises, naval exercises, and all those things, how we are going to prepare for it. First, adapt, understand, and innovate. You need to be into the system to understand, adapt, and understand these things, and then innovate where exactly you require the technologies for the next 20, 30 years. Develop ecosystem for countering disruptive tech. If there is an electronic interference in your radar signature, in your onboard systems, you will have to make those kind of systems which are, unhackable, which are safe from any kind of electronic interference. So which means you will have to work 2 to 3 notches above the current kind of technologies which is being innovated. Underwater domain, and therefore domain awareness, is very important. We have initiated, along with the US, this thing which is known as the Indo-Pacific Maritime Domain Awareness Initiative, where we want to know how these sea behaves, what exactly are the topographical features, undersea features, what exactly is the salt content, how much is the depth charge, how much is the density of the water, so that you can prepare in future for this kind of using these kind of data. Work on better detection measures. If there is new kind of stealth technologies, there are new kind of underwater systems which are there, you will have to start at the right earnest to work on better detection measures. Again, I propose that undertake a national maritime plan of action 2047, which of course you will look into maritime history, you will look into all those things, but you will also look into where exactly are you going to locate your capacities in the maritime domain and naval war strategies by the 2047. Commercial and defense field would be challenges, because again, the commercial data can be also used for defensive purpose, for military purposes. Let me tell you an example. When Saddam Hussein during the Second World War was completely housed in one of those places, he was using the commercial satellite data which he used to purchase from France for completely devising his military strategy against the US. Autonomous systems again, need better configuration of data and intelligence, intercepting the intention. If China, if Pakistan, or any other adversarial country is preparing for something, you should draw the line, something like a linear progression, and look into where exactly is the intention. You will have to intercept the intention so that you can prepare for the future accordingly. Deterrence, again, people say nuclear deterrence and all those things, but the deterrence is not only now nuclear, it's also the deterrence of mind, deterrence of thinking, deterrence of intention, deterrence of ideas, where you deter the enemy's ideas from thinking into on certain lines because you have developed the capabilities. Again, electronic warfare of a completely new configuration. Electronic warfare which can protect your systems and prepare accordingly. Maritime zones, maritime security, exclusive economic zones, these are vast areas which are still unexplored and will provide you that impetus for the country's national income and bringing out more better lifestyles for the people, because we do have got a vast shoreline which is 7,500 kilometers and 2 and 3 times more the exclusive economic zones, for which we have to prepare a plan of action and protect those resources, both marine, underwater, as well as surface and underwater platforms. Thank you from my side. That's all. Thank you. If anybody has a question, please.
Anybody has a question? Just wait. I will initiate the question session. Actually, I was listening to a lot of instrumentation and all these things. So I have a hunch feeling that probably like evolution, these large reptiles like dinosaurs, they become extinct, and nature bring into the forefront energy efficient mammals. So I have a hunch feeling, you just correct me and you can explain more on it. Probably these large dinosaurs like aircraft carriers will be replaced by energy efficient drones. Or is some kind of, you see, even in the computation realms, this quantum computing is coming, everything has become miniaturized. The small is beautiful, if you have remembered E.F. Schumacher's book. So I am thinking that gradually this big army, big weaponry, all kinds of big will be replaced by very, very energy efficient kind of weaponry. Am I correct, Professor? Please explain on this to the whole audience, because this is ultimately this is the crux and the essence of the talk, the whole talk, I think.
One of the articles which was written by economists was the phase of smart power, smart minds, smart frigates.
What is the book? What is the book?
In the Economist, there was an article which talks about smart power, power, sharp power. Apart from smart and sharp power, there is a new phase which is known as smart minds, smart frigates, which can, if you have a frigate which is of a lower capacity, but can carry missiles, can be counterproductive to anything which is there in the open at the seas, because it is something like aircraft carrier is a sitting duck. You can easily hit it hard and it gets submerged. Now, if you lose a volume, a asset of nearly $4 billion at sea, it is completely going to really have an adverse effect on the moral of the thing. Again, underwater drones, swarming techniques, which again is seen in a major way. India is also preparing for these underwater drones, swarming, and all those things, because it gives an undue advantage. You cannot kill mosquitoes with a rifle. You cannot keep mosquitoes with any kind of firing system, because you will have to understand that mosquitoes will harass you, will make your life miserable. One of the cases I want to really narrate is that one of the US aircraft carrier went across South China Sea, and the Chinese fishermen militia boats harassed this aircraft carrier because they went around and around, forming a picket sort of a system against this aircraft carrier. Now, these aircraft carrier cannot really shoot them because it's beyond their capacities. They are very close by, and they cannot shoot because these are a civilian domain. And therefore, there is a lot of talk with regard to lawfare, how law has been, international law would be used for various purposes. Of course, smart frigates, smart mines, all of these are going to define, and by as there are two aspects of it. If aircraft carriers can become more efficient, energy efficient, and second, cheaper to operate. One aircraft carrier, you will be surprised to know, even when India operates, 1 day cost is 1 crore rupees. And if it is at sea for 60 days, it is 60 crore rupees in one operational deployment. So whether we want to really work on that, or we want to work on the alternative models which are already existent. Now the problem is that, see, you have inherited a set template of aircraft carrier, but there is more and more countries which are investing on submarines, on smart frigates, smaller boats, land attack craft, fast missile boats, so as to have a deterrence advantage. Look, we have these kind of things which are already on the anvil. And yes, tech is one thing which everybody will look into. An aircraft carrier, if you look into it, China is deploying 3, but the US is reducing its aircraft carrier size because it knows that aircraft carrier can be a liability if it gets hit by a certain kind of carrier killer missiles. But in 5 to 10 years, I believe the picture will be much more clearer on that aspect. Thank you, Professor Nachiketa.
Yes, thank you. So we have a questions from Kenguruka Sidoen. He's a PhD scholar in our university from Burundi. Yes, Sidoen, you can have your question to the speaker, please. Sidoen, we have allowed your mic and camera. Sidoen, are you? You have raised your hand. Have you got any question? Connecting. Or you can write in the chat if you are listening to me. Sidoen, am I audible? Hello? So anybody who can ask a question? Yes, Sidoen, please ask your question. Yes. Please ask your questions, or you can write in the chat box. Oh, you have written in the chat box? No.
You have another John Bravo. Okay.
Bravo, you can ask your question. John Bravo. He's from Uganda. He is doing his MTech in structural engineering. Yes, Bravo, you can have your question. Is there any problem or what? I don't understand. Bravo, the mic is allowed. You can unmute yourself and you please ask your questions or write in the chat box. Hello?
The mic is off, maybe.
Oh, you please write in the chat box, or you can ask your questions. We have from our side, we have allowed your mic and camera. You can probably unmute yourself. You can ask the questions or you can write in the chat box.
Okay. Okay, John, please go ahead.
Is he writing? By the way, just to give them little amount of time, the National Maritime
Foundation.
Plan. Yes.
Yeah.
Please write your question.
Yeah.
The National Maritime, the strategy and the planning for a longer period, a long-term planning. Is it there? Is it there?
I'm not aware of this because the National Security Council recently we started work on national security strategy. Maritime, there is a maritime coordinator in National Security Council Secretariat, which looks into maritime issues. But in terms of capacity building and planning, there are few departments which look into it. But how much is their time horizon is my doubt. They might be looking over 10 years, time horizon, removing the ships, decommissioning it. But whether they are looking into the new kind of technologies, I have no information with regard to it. But I believe they are just not there in terms of these kind of issues, because on AI and other things, we are still on the elementary project base phases, which is there.
Right. Okay. Yes, Bravo, are you hearing me? Bravo or Sidoan, you have raised your hands, you are writing. Can you, Bravo? Hello? Oh, sir, I'm typing. Okay, please type quickly. Please type quickly and frame your questions as briefly as possible, to the point.
Yeah, Professor Nachiketa, where exactly are you going in Vietnam?
On 20th, and I will meet Dr. Ho. You must be knowing him, I think, in Hanoi.
Okay.
So I have other work, but because he has delivered this, I think the third talk in this series, and he is a close friend of maybe Vijay Sakuja, Professor Sakuja. So I'll be meeting him, and so he has his question now. Here in India, we have a habit of throwing things everywhere. I would like,
which is in Goa, but the problem is that we are not addressing it from the maritime space. We are addressing it from the point of view of plastics in the tap water, plastic in the river streams. Of course, we need to address this marine pollution from the point of view of plastics. Very recently, Australian government have conducted a wide-scale Indian Ocean level symposium on addressing marine pollution. There were few of the issues which were raised and which completely is important from the developing countries' point of view. First, how to generate a consensus on the pollution which is caused by fishing nets, because we have seen when the boats go out in the sea and if the fishing net gets damaged, he or she, the fisherman abandon the fishing net out in the sea. Apart from that, many of the plastics are abandoned at sea through those ports and other things which get submerged. It is being stated that there is already an island equivalent to the size of California, which is floating in the Indian Ocean closer to the Pacific, and we need to address it at the right earnest. For that, there is need to be consensus on regulations and how to address these plastics at a global level, because you see there is a lot of ship cruise, which is taking shape and which is adding to this pollution. Of course, out of the 10 countries which are adding to this marine pollution and marine plastics, 5 are the Asian countries. And until unless we don't generate a awareness and consensus, I think it is very hard to address this challenge, and which is growing multifold. One of the proposals which have been made during the conference was to create a barriers where the plastic should not flow into the ocean, but that you will have to do at every port or every river delta which gets dropped into the ocean. But then again, you will have to make certain standards, what kind of these boom barriers or these things which you have to generate or install at these ports so that plastic does not flow into the ocean. Thank you.
Okay, another actually just a corroboration. I mean, this marine pollution is not under the ambit of the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea.
No, it is not.
No, it is not. Oh, and there is no such an international body to address this pollution kind of things. Am I correct?
The one organization which looks into is International Maritime Organization, which looks into it. Apart from that, there are national and regional institutions which look into maritime pollution.
Okay, okay. And I think this will be the last question from Bravo. Thank you so much, Dr. Pankaj Jha, for your more detailed and informative lecture. Mine ID is more of an inquiry, sir. You have said about the need to work on new kind of composite materials. Maybe he is from structural engineering and softwares as one of the countermeasures, sir. With reference to my country, Uganda, there is high level of brain drain and bureaucracy for such innovative strategic ideas. How has India dealt with this issue if it is the same scenario here, sir? Thank you.
With regard to, the few of the ideas that we have taken, Digital India, Startup India, all of these, we have provided the financial assistance to the unicorns, and they can do whatever they want to in terms of innovation, production, the industrial and R&D with regard to it. And therefore, what has happened, the person who was, flying abroad for a job, he found that we should do something within the land itself to promote that industry, give employment, and also engage itself. In this context, with regard to Digital India, innovation, Think India, that kind of initiatives have been primarily to germinate that kind of thinking, ideas, innovation, which is duly supported by the government as well. The government's only function is to provide financial support and funding and look how viable a particular idea can be, and then support accordingly. I think this is where bureaucracy has been limited to a certain extent, and the people can see and promise that if they stay back in this country, they will have something to contribute to the country and also make their living out of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, now.
So I think we should stop it here, Professor. Hello, somebody is asking. Yes, Sido and I have you got any question?
Our things. Excuse me, sir.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yes, Sido and please go ahead.
Yeah.
Initiative of some volunteers who are going to the house by house to explain the families to keep the dustbin around the house. Each house.
No, your voice is breaking. Sidon, your voice is breaking. Just briefly put your question into the chat box or otherwise, because we are running short of time. I think at your end, the connectivity.
Yeah, can please go ahead. Your question, as far as I understood, is how to make people aware of really, differentiating the garbage between wet and hard garbage. And I think one of the possible ways is to make students, the kids, aware of it, because kids at times, the woman in the house at times, will be very able to really differentiate between the things, and you will have to give incentives like a prize, a recognition, a certification that this person has been very diligent in segregating the plastic waste, paper waste against the food waste, and therefore it is instrumental. You will have to take a civil society movement in different areas and colonies so that this can be sensitized. But I believe the kids are the biggest harbingers of that kind of change. If you can make a kid aware of it, who is going to the school, it will do a lot better in segregating the garbage in different areas like food waste, paper and renewable recyclable waste, and hazardous waste, which again will be very instrumental in waste management, as well as generating energy from that kind of waste, which can be used for that purposes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Pankaj Jha, for your illuminating talk, actually containing a lot of scientific components. I was very much enjoyed by the quantum cryptography and all these things, which is close to my heart. And I think you should also, I will request you to prepare a very good book chapter. So after the completion of 25 lectures, we are going to publish it as the third annual commemorative volume. And it will not be like the random talks that we have in the first and the second volume. That's why we have kept this annual topic as integrated maritime studies, so that this book can be of library and reference value. So thank you very much. On behalf of the outreach cell and the university, I am extremely grateful and thankful to you, sir. Thank you very much. I think, hello, are you able to hear me? Hello.